Hello and welcome to Joy of Books with me, Miss Joy. Today's book is Zom-B Underground by Darren Shan. This young adult fiction book was released in 2013 and contains 212 pages. Sharing his views on the book today is author and teacher TC.
The first thing that I would say is that for my sins, I didn't actually realise that this was part of a series until I reached the end of the book. So I was very annoyed to be told at the end to be continued. So yeah, sorry, that's a very early spoiler alert, but it was a very, very good read up until that last page. And like I say, the book did grip me, I have to say. I'm a big fan of the post-apocalyptic zombie type text anyway, whether it be film or book. And this character B, or Becky Smith as is her real name, wakes up with little recollection of the last 6 months after a zombie attack in the UK. She soon discovers that she is what they refer to as a revitalised, which is a zombie who has not fully turned. So she still has her senses and her brain essentially is still operating, but nothing is growing or anything like that. So she's really surviving alone on her memory, which is a bit of a paradox because she's woken up with a little recollection of the last 6 months, yet her memory is what's keeping her organs and everything else alive. Hair won't grow back, for example. Her teeth have sharpened. The skin's come off her hands and exposes very sharp bones. She's even got a hole in her torso and her body with green moss growing out of it. So it's clear that she has survived a zombie attack, a very severe one that's left her in quite a state. Part of her body has been removed as well to add insult to injury. I'll give full marks to Darren Shan for the originality of the concept. In essence, it's a zombie's eye view of a situation that has been much copied and parodied, hasn't it? The zombie apocalypse text. So I really did like that because you don't get that from other similar books as much. So I really, really like that one. Of course, she is one of these revitalised along with several others. They're a bit hesitant to accept her. Rage is the leader of this little group of older teenagers. There's the female rival there, Kathy, and the Mark, who hasn't been on a mission yet. See, these have been experimented on, and they're kind of half aware of this, seeing how the military observe them and watch how they react to situations where they're next to real zombies. So they're essentially being observed in this military compound, and they're also being fed this rather dubious grey meat, where I'm sure you can put two and two together and deduce what that meat is made of. There's also this ex-teacher, this Mr. Burke. Again, unclear really how they managed to keep the teacher alive in a scientific military compound. I wouldn't have thought that he would have been that essential. Shan does try to pass that off by saying that he has a good way with teenagers, but I don't know. Do all teachers have great relationships with teenagers? I'm not sure. Of course, they got the scientists who are popping in and out of these rooms. Reminded me a lot of The Island of Dr. Moreau, actually, as regards a book in terms of the experimentation aspect of this. And of course, at the end, the zombies revolt and take over the complex, and our heroine B escapes at the end, finding daylight. So I quite enjoyed the book. Obviously, the themes touch a lot upon the themes of the first book. So the first book dealt with B's father, who was essentially a very unpleasant person. He was a racist. He was abusive to B and her mother. And that was really a major part of the first book. So with regard to this one, it starts off kind of touching upon that, about the idea that B had to sacrifice a boy for the colour of his skin, and the way that she struggles to internalise that and handle that. So again, you have got the theme of growing up as well, right versus wrong, moral issues as well. In fact, if you just read this little bit here, so the character talks about her schooling. So she says, "When we did history at school and studied the Nazis, I was always scornful of the collaborators, those who morally objected to the cruelties, but went along with them anyway. Guards at death camps, doctors who were asked to experiment on live subjects, tailors who made clothes for soldiers, factory workers who provided them with guns. I thought they were cowards. There was no doubt in my mind that I'd have refused to help the Nazis just to save my neck. Now I realise it's not that simple. If it's put to you plainly, cooperate or die, it's impossible not to have doubts. Maybe a saint would shake their head and refuse to consider the possibility of collusion, but I'm no saint. I'm not even halfway human." Yeah, I like that part about following orders. In fact, reminded me of another book that I'd read, The Wave, that was based on, I think, a documentary in America, in Palo Alto, I think it was. So it is nice that that element is inside this text. And of course, when this book was released in the 2013, I think it was, you're looking at a real region of an explosion of those kind of zombie thriller films and texts and so forth. So certainly a very, very popular book. Of course, his reputation is as being the master of horror, and there's lots of parts in there that are a bit icky, I would say. For example, he does describe in quite a lot of detail, or she, the narrator, describes in a lot of detail the injuries that she suffered and the attacks as well on the zombies, or by the zombies. So it is a bit gruesome. So I would say this book is not for younger children, definitely for, I'd say, 13, 14 upwards. You Call of Duty gamers would love this book, probably. But like I say, very good book, but very important that you don't do what I did and ignore the first book in the series, go straight to this one, and then scratch your head at the ending. There's also a few other little touches here. So at the beginning and the end, Darren Shan includes an authorial commentary, which we don't often get, not often privy to this. So he acknowledges that his choice to make the main character a heroine, a female. He talks a little bit about that in the book, which is interesting. And I like that. I think it's always good when you get a bit more insight from the author and a little bit more of an understanding of where they're coming from. But I really enjoyed the book. Like I say, it was just my mistake, really, in choosing to start with the second book in the series rather than the first. Well, don't let that put you off. Definitely have a look at this series. It's great. He's a great writer. You can't go wrong with Darren Shan.
Well, thank you very much for your review of this book, TC. Zom-B Underground by Darren Shan is available from all good book outlets. Thank you for joining me, and please remember to like and subscribe to Joy of Books.